Okay, yesterday I was on a call with a client and I was telling my client about how I experience imposter syndrome. And my client was like, wait, you feel imposter syndrome? And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Absolutely, I experienced imposter syndrome. That's why I can talk about it. So today I want to give you the realities of the top performers that I've worked with and who they really are and how they're not that much different than you. So let's dive in. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Amber Deibert. I'm a performance coach for enterprise and strategic account executives. I help with mindset and I help with productivity. And I did the math. I started looking at the people that I've worked with just to see, like, do I have a pretty good population? I've worked with hundreds of sellers. I do one-on-one coaching for the last 8 years. I work only with enterprise and strategic account executives. And I looked to see, and I think I have about 12 sellers recently who became either the top rep on their team or the top rep in their entire organization. I've had sellers go on Scott Ingram's podcast. I think it's called Sales Success Stories, but he only interviews the number one rep in organizations. He checks the receipts. He's very diligent about it. I've had tons of reps go to President's Club. I've had reps that close mega deals. I've had reps that close $1 million in 1 year in commission. So I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of what it takes to be a top rep and what goes on inside the heads of these reps. So I just want to give you a very clear picture. These people are normal humans. Like, if you heard the conversations that I'm having with them, you would be like, oh, wait, they also have problems. They also struggle with self-doubt. They also feel a lack of confidence sometimes. They also have imposter syndrome every time. And I just want to reassure you that there's nobody who's like a robot who becomes a high performer. They're all humans with human brains and strengths and weaknesses. What I will say is that many of them have found ways to work around their common pitfalls. They know what they're good at, they know what they're not good at, and they optimize for the things that they are good at, and they work around the things that they're not as good at. A lot of them spot the thing that they know that they fail at and the places where they hesitate, and they have ways to work around that so that those things don't hold them back. And I'm going to teach you some of these tricks coming up here so that you can apply them to yourself as well. What the top performers have versus the performers who are maybe not hitting quota, not doing as well, what they have is a belief that they can succeed. And this is hard because for a lot of you out there, you're like, I don't believe I can succeed. I believe that other people can do it. I believe that it's possible for me, but I don't know if I can trust myself to get there. And the key differentiator is knowing what your strengths are, knowing what your weaknesses are, not spending too much time trying to fix your weaknesses, and instead spending all your time optimizing for your strengths. So let me get into a few mantras and tools and techniques that the top performers use that I've given them, that they've suggested to me, that have been really helpful. First of all, it's really helpful to have mantras that can realign you to who you want to be. One of my very favorite mantras that I give to every one of my clients is, I have a 100% track record of always figuring it out. Remind yourself that no matter what has happened, there's a lot of my clients who've been let go in the past, they've been fired, and they're really scared of that happening again. And so everything they do is kind of like running away from the boogeyman versus running towards what they actually want. And it's so helpful to remind yourself, like, no matter what has happened to me, I have always figured it out. Every single time, I've always figured it out. And that can be really reassuring so that you start running towards what you're looking for and you start having more confidence in yourself versus trying to run away from the fear and the boogeyman that's going to chase you down. And like, then you end up homeless and you die and everybody is found dead in the gutter. So remind yourself that you are confident, you are capable, and you have a 100% track record of always figuring it out. Another favorite reframe is remembering that when you are feeling insecurity, it's just because you're in your own head. When you feel insecure, the key to solving that is by putting yourself in the other person's shoes. This isn't about you. This isn't about what you're doing. This isn't about what you're trying to accomplish. This is about them. And so the more you can put yourself into a consultative state and more of a coaching state to help your client and teach them and train them and give them information that is going to help them in their business, the more that you can get into their head and think about what they're thinking about, what their problems are, and how you can help solve those problems, the less insecure you feel, the less self-doubt you feel, and the more valuable you are to your prospects. And speaking of being more consultative, this is something that I learned from Ian Koniak since coaching in his program. Ian is so focused on serving your client. And it's wild to me. Like, I'm like, yeah, I mean, this kind of makes sense, but I don't understand how it works in practice. And I've seen example after example after example of this working over and over and over for clients. It's really fascinating when a seller detaches from the outcome and doesn't get in this like hustly, needy scarcity mode of like, I've got to close deals and I've got to try to convince you doing whatever I can. And instead completely detaches from that. And it's like, I don't need this deal to close. My only goal here is to serve you. And my only goal is to help if I can help. If I can't help, then I'm going to disqualify this and I'm not going to waste my time or your time. But if I can help, I am all in on doing whatever it takes to help you. When you detach from the outcome and instead just focus on doing your best and being there out of service and helping them solve their problems, everything flows more smoothly. It's really fun to see how my top clients are so consultative in their sales process. They're really talking to their prospects about how to build their business, how to change their business, how to solve the problems. And they become more of a business consultant and like an insider giving them industry knowledge versus someone who's trying to pressure them or coerce them or get them to do something that maybe they didn't want to do in the first place. That's not what the top sellers do. The top sellers are solving real problems and finding those ways that their product can improve the business owners' lives. I also want to give a quick shout out here because sometimes I'll have women sellers that coach with me and they're like, oh, I bet your men never experience this. And I just want to be clear. Yes, the men absolutely experience the same things that the women experience. I mean, there are some caveats and some things that really annoy me that my women sellers experience. But as far as self-doubt, as far as imposter syndrome, as far as feeling low confidence, the men absolutely experience that just like the women do. And it's so interesting too, because there's also minorities that come up. A big part of imposter syndrome is feeling like you're the odd one out and there's nobody else in the room that looks like you. And so for women, for minorities, for anybody who feels like they're different, their background is different, their experience is different, this imposter syndrome comes up. And I just wish that all of you could hear the conversations that I'm having with these top AEs. You would realize that they are not so different from you. And they just have ways of reframing their mindset, thinking about things in a different way, realigning themselves to what they actually want to accomplish that get them moving in the right direction and help them just walk around those common pitfalls that they fall under. When I talk about the work that I do, I talk about how I'm not a baseball coach. I'm more like a batting coach. I'm not teaching you how to sell. I'm not teaching you how to play the game. I'm helping you to make very small tweaks, like shifting your grip, shifting the weight in your hips. I don't actually play baseball, but it's super small tweaks that are going to have a massive impact on how you perform. And so I just want you all to see that you're not that far off from having your best year ever. You're not that far off from how the top sellers perform. There's just small tweaks to how you manage your schedule, how you manage your tasks, how you get work done, and how you think about what you're doing that are going to make a huge difference for how you perform. If you want help in your sales process, if you want to go into this next year feeling super confident, feeling proud of yourself, feeling like you finally have the tools to reach your full potential, I want you to come check out my coaching programs. You can find them at mentalmastery.com. You'll learn everything about my programs. You'll have a link there to schedule a call. And I want you to just see that it is possible for you. This is just the thing that I hear over and over again. And this is something that's gone through my own mind as I've become a high performer of like, what if it's not possible for me? What if I'm never going to be able to do that? I said that I was going to do it and I haven't lived up to that. And I don't even know if I can trust myself. I feel kind of out of control of myself. I feel like I can't trust that I'm going to show up as the person that I need to be in order to accomplish what I want to accomplish. And from my own experience and from so many of my clients, you absolutely have that capability. I don't want you to look back on this 10 years later and have so much regret that you didn't go for it. So if you want to see some hope, if you want to see some possibility, reach out to me. I'd love to tell you about my coaching programs and see if we're a good fit for each other. And if not, are you on my newsletter? Because there's a lot of great content coming out on my newsletter as well. You can join that at mentalmastery.com/newsletter. I hope that this episode has helped you to realize that the people that you idolize and the people that you put on a pedestal are not that different from you. They're not that far from you. It's just very small, minor tweaks that they're doing that will help you get where they are. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.